And we've both had little experiences with this recently, so it's very, very topical. It's always
Yeah,
topical.
it is definitely.
So this one's going to be in about three parts. So we're going to look at, what is the trap of the comfort zone, and what does it look like? We'll look at, in the second part, we'll look at why does it happen? Like, how do we get into this situation? And then finally, the third part's going to be how do we get out of it? What can we do to get unstuck and out of our? You can still end up in this situation, which is kind of what we kind of found ourselves in, because you know it took a real lot of discomfort to make some of the leaps that we've made, and I think we forget how difficult
Yeah.
that was, because where we are is so much easier and comes more naturally, and so it's questioning if you're still challenging yourself. So I think asking for feedback and being brave enough to ask for feedback and being compassionate to yourself about what they say, because if we are wounded by what they say, we can't grow from what they say. We have to be able to take feedback, not see it as criticism, but see it as feedback. Yeah. So we always start with a quote, and this week's quote is, your next level isn't waiting for perfect. It's waiting for you to show up scared and do it anyway.
That's it. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Like, the thing that's stopping us from jumping out of our comfort zone is literally fear of the unknown. And it's only perceived fear because we're afraid of something that's not even real. You know what I mean? And we forget how excited we are for this new beginning, that we cling on to a world or a life that we actually don't want. So just let go and jump into the exciting new life.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. And we've both had little experiences with this recently, so it's very, very topical. It's always
Yeah,
topical.
it is definitely.
So this one's going to be in about three parts. So we're going to look at, what is the trap of the comfort zone, and what does it look like? We'll look at, in the second part, we'll look at why does it happen? Like, how do we get into this situation? And then finally, the third part's going to be how do we get out of it? What can we do to get unstuck and out of our comfort zone and to our next level? So, the trap of comfort
Mm.
is our first part. So, your comfort zone is a cage. And it's fair to say that when the longer that we're in a comfort zone, and we can have different comfort zones for different areas of our life. So, for example, I had social anxiety, so my comfort zone was like avoiding social situations. The longer that you're in that situation, the bigger it becomes, the more comfortable, even though we call it the comfort zone, but actually it's not comfortable, is
It's
it?
not. It's not. It is. It's lonely. It's uncomfortable, and like it gets agitating. And I describe it like it's like this internal itch. Like you want to get out of it, but you're just so scared. It's like you're wrapped in this warm blanket, and you're like, I don't want to leave this warm blanket because like it's cold out there, but it's not actually cold. And I think we're afraid of something that we crave so much, but because of say insecurity and our anything trauma that we've been through, it just kind of gets comfortable to stay in that cage, or stay in that blanket. And it's in letting go of the old and embracing the new. That's what we need to do.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, and I remember with my social anxiety, and I still have pangs of it. You don't but you don't spend a lifetime of having social anxiety and then just flick a switch and it's completely gone. Um, there's still like a residue. So I'll get a thought or whatever, and I have to have a word with myself. I have to reframe, and I have to realize that I'm not in that situation from a long time ago. But I remember when I was still in my social anxiety and say it in my comfort zone of not speaking. So trying to make myself small, but hoping someone would speak to me, because it's almost like they would give me permission to speak by speaking to me, because it's like they want to speak to me. So now I feel that I can be that little bit brave and reply, but desperately wanting to be able to say something. And then I would even be in my head going, oh my goodness, now it's awkward because you haven't said anything. So it would just be weird if you said, and I'd have all this conversation going on in my head, you know. Yeah, so we call it the comfort zone because it's where you have been, and because we do need to be a little bit brave, and we do need to be a little bit uncomfortable, but it's like blue skies at the other side of it, isn't it? You know,
Yeah,
it's like
I had to have a really big conversation with myself last week. You know what I mean? I've been having fears around moving forward, around taking the next step in my life, and it's all interconnected. It's not just my career. It's my twin flame connection. It's just even leaving the house more. You know what I mean? Just certain things like that. And I had this really kind of a wake up call, and I was like, I literally had this kind of face on me, looking at myself, going, "What? What? You know, I've been looking forward to this life I'm manifesting for so long, and I'm afraid to jump into it, and I'm clinging on to a life I don't want anymore." I was like, it doesn't make sense. And when I kind of realized that, I was like, I need to let go of this because I don't want to hold on anymore. And I think it's when you get to like, we're in that comfort zone for so long, but when you get to that kind of, that agitation stage, it's like you're kind of you're not even, you're being pushed to leave. Because and then it's only when you're pushed by your environment that you kind of realize,
when it
I
becomes
want
so
to be pushed.
uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're seeing how, like, you think it's uncomfortable to leave the comfort zone because it's unfamiliar. But when you're actually in the middle state where you're ready to go, kind of, but you're not ready to go, you kind of realize it's the past that's starting to be uncomfortable. It's a really weird scenario. Like, you're leaving the uncomfortable to step into more uncomfortable, but it's the uncomfortable. The new uncomfortable is something that you've been manifesting and wishing for. So let go of the old. This is all we need to do, is let go of the life that you do not want anymore.
Yeah, and what happens often, and I know that this is what happened with me, is that you stay in your comfort zone for as long. So at first it's comfortable because it's avoiding the thing that you're fearful of, but then eventually it becomes uncomfortable in there. And but it's like this balance thing, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
while ever it's more comfortable in your comfort zone, people tend to stay there. You know,
because the
while it's more
familiarity.
comfortable, if it's more uncomfortable in your comfort zone than it is to have that discomfort of breaking out, then people stay there. But often what happens is you get to a point where the comfort zone or our familiar is so uncomfortable that you have no other option but jump, because
Yeah,
actually if I don't jump, it's worse here. And
yeah.
often people wait till that point before making a change or jumping for it. And I guess the message today is, don't wait until it's too uncomfortable in your
Exactly.
comfort
Like,
zone,
I
because
use
you
that
don't
boat
have to.
analogy. Like, you know what? There's one foot on the old boat, one foot on the new boat, and both are drifting away from each other. And you've got a choice here. Are you going to get stuck on this old? Well, actually, if you don't jump, you're going to fall in the water. You know what I mean? You're not going to end up going backwards. You just fall in the water. So you need to just take that jump out of the comfort zone. But the one thing that I didn't even realize till last night. You coached me on this last night, because I'm going through this at the moment. It's all connected to the worthiness wound. The
Yeah.
fear of rejection, for me personally anyway, it's a fear of rejection, the fear of abandonment, and it's a fear of getting hurt again. And I think that's another reason why we wrap ourselves in that little blanket, is because we've been through so much pain, that we've lost so many people, we've walked away from so many situations, that we do hide in this little bubble, because it's a safety bubble, it's this protection, this wall that we put up, it's like a protection thing. And venturing out again is scary, because we're afraid we're going to get hurt, we're afraid we're going to fail, we're afraid we're going to get rejected. So it actually does kind of all boil down to that inner wounding that we have.
Yeah, and I think it's also fair to say that even if you have been pushing outside your comfort zone for a while, you can still end up in this situation, which is kind of what we kind of found ourselves in, because you know, it took a real lot of discomfort to make some of the leaps that we've made. And I think we forget how difficult
Yeah.
that was, because where we are is so much easier and comes more naturally. And so it's question if you're still challenging yourself. I think, you know, I think we can create a new comfort zone, can't we?
It happens over and over again. Like we take this, like before we ventured into this life, say, we came out of the comfort zone and we did all those scary things, and it was so hard and so difficult. And then we achieved it, and we got so excited, and we were on this high for a long time. And then everything we feared got comfortable because we got good at it. And then we're like, ooh, I like this here, and it's too scary to go any further, even though I've got loads of dreams that I want to achieve. I'm like, I really don't want to do that again. But it does happen over and over again. Every time we take the next step up, every time we up level, we go through the same trepidation again.
Yeah. So, you know, nobody's immune. So everyone should be checking. Are you sat in your comfort zone? Could you be pushing further? Could you be challenging yourself more? Could you be reaching for the stars and getting that one step closer to the stars than you are at the moment? So another reason that we can get trapped in our comfort zone is a belief that we need to be 100% confident in something, or that everything has to be in place or perfect before we make that leap. And I think that's quite a common one, particularly if you're wanting to do things like career changes or career progression, that we can be like, well, I just want to do one more course, or I just want to practice this a bit more, rather than ripping off the band-aid and jumping in, because you learn so much more from doing it, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned there the feeling of I'm not ready. And we're always not ready. You're never going to be ready for something because we don't know how to do the next thing. And that's what I was saying to myself when I want to start doing workshops and stuff. And I'm just like, I'm not ready. And then I have to sit with myself and kind of go, if I sit here in fear saying I'm not ready and do nothing, I'll never be ready. I need to practice something if I want to be ready. I need to learn how to do it to be ready. So you're only going to be ready when you take action.
Yeah, absolutely. So another one is, what you kind of touched upon, is that I'm not ready often comes from a place of a fear of judgment or failure or being seen. And so we are kidding ourselves, because really we've got some deep-rooted wounds, or our subconscious is fearful of being seen, or that we're going to be judged for what we're doing, or that we might fail, and it's not okay to fail, because failure is part of the process. Like, I don't mean massive fails. We shouldn't take on a project at work in the hopes of failing, but small failures, small mistakes is how we learn, and it's okay for it not to be perfect. So so and we'll have a look later on at those deep wounds, because it could be that you've got a deep wound and you're just telling your consciousness is saying, hey, it's because I'm not ready yet. It's because I just need to do another course, or I just need to do 10 more lives, or I just need to do, so we make excuses, and we have to check our excuses. Are there reasons? Sometimes our excuses feel like reasons, and they're not. They're just excuses. So I'm not ready is not a reason.
No,
all the time.
You're never going to be ready.
Sometimes it is, so I'm not ready to be a brain surgeon.
But how do you get ready to be a brain surgeon? You practice. You do the thing that, and that's the thing, and this I'm not ready, it just doesn't exist really, because you cannot be ready until you try. Yeah. This is it. And this is the thing I was shouting at myself last week. I was in silence for a while, and I was literally sternly talking to myself. That doesn't make sense. You cannot sit here in fear and say you're not ready and do nothing. You have to prepare yourself to be ready. So, no one has to know. If you practice something, no one has to know about it. Do it in private, and then show the people when you're ready.
It's just like the example of a brain surgeon thing. I am definitely not ready to be, doing brain surgery on someone. But let's say that I suddenly got the passion and draw to be a brain surgeon. I'm ready for the first step. It's not taking the step in the, steps can be small, but it needs to be moving in the direction. And if you're, sometimes our steps are more like side steps than forward steps, aren't they? I'm just going to do more of the same and not more of, not a step of something new. And it's checking whether our reason of I'm not ready for this particular challenge, is it a reason or is it just an excuse? And if it is a reason, then it's not a reason to start making steps in the right direction.
This is the thing, I mentioned fears already, but this is what I spoke to myself about the other day. Is like, is it really a fear of something real? Like, ask yourself, what are you afraid of? And I ask myself, what am I afraid of in my next steps? And I'm like, these are things that I'm really looking forward to. These are things that I've envisioned for a long time. These are the big goals and dreams that I have. Why am I afraid of something I really, 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 really want? And I was like, I'm not actually afraid of it. I'm not. Yes, I might be afraid of a fear of rejection here and there, but you can heal that wound.
Yeah.
You can heal that fear of rejection. And then healing your self-worth and healing how you feel about yourself. And you know how that is healed as well? By practicing, by gaining your confidence. Yeah. And this is all these steps that you take to overcome those fears. And my fears literally went away because I logically said to myself, why am I afraid of the life I've been dreaming of? And why am I afraid of living a life that doesn't serve me anymore?
Yeah. So, some examples from teaching where you might be not ready and stifling your progress. So, applying for promotions or leadership roles. So, thinking, oh, well, other people are qualified or that other person is likely to get the job. And I think it's also letting go of the outcome. Because so say, for example, you're in a school and maybe there is somebody else who is probably more in line for the job. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't apply for it, because the experience in the application and the experience in the interview is valuable. It's one step, and it's also putting you on the radar with the SLT or leadership that you're serious about progressing. So it's applying for it whether you get it or not, applying for it whether there's somebody but in your eyes more qualified for the job, but it's being seen, isn't it? It's being seen as somebody who wants to do a position like that. It's putting you on the radar, and it's giving you the practice for the next time a job like that comes up. Or if you see, maybe not even in your own school, maybe you might decide you might want to try it somewhere else. So it's all part of the process.
But that's the fact, like, there's confidence to be built in literally just applying. You don't even have to get it, or and forget about the fear of rejection here. The confidence, the empowerment you feel in just taking that one step. Mm-hmm. And then you never know, if you feel it enough and strongly enough, you could get it, because anything is possible if you believe in it enough.
And there's wonderful opportunities to get feedback. So if you apply and you don't get an interview, then some schools or job, they might not do it, but you don't get if you don't ask. So it's really useful, because you can take that for your next application. What was it about my application? And you might find out it was just that somebody had this qualification that you didn't have. We thought you were a great candidate, or we've got 5 great candidates that have got this qualification, and then right, that's the qualification I need to get myself on. That's what my next step is fulfilling that for next time. Or if you have an interview, also, asking for feedback and being brave enough to ask for feedback and being compassionate to yourself about what they say. Because if we are wounded by what they say, we can't grow from what they say. We have to be able to take feedback, not see it as criticism, but see it as feedback. Yeah,
so if we don't know how to do things a certain way, and somebody gives us that advice, it's really helpful to be able to do things better. Like, I used to be very anti-feedback, as we call it. If somebody was showing me how to do something, I'd be like, go away, I know how to do it. And I wouldn't have a clue, I'd just be so angry that they were trying to tell me what to do. And then I realized, hold on now, this makes my life easier than taking this criticism, not criticism, but feedback or constructive criticism, if you want to call it that. It is so helpful. And like, you can become so much better at your job or at anything if you actually take the advice from all these people. Because
Mhm.
there's so much little golden snippets in everything anyone does. Like, so it is really helpful to appreciate feedback.
Yeah, and another thing about, I mean, as teachers, we get we're not observed like we used to be fair, but we still get feedback on books and things like that, and observations and so on. Um, and I know myself from years of getting, feedback, always zoning in on that criticism, and I and that's a good thing actually. Had I taken it as feedback and wanted to act on it, but actually what I wanted to do was convince myself that that's not true and they just don't like me, and because I didn't want to accept that perhaps that what they say there was an element of truth in what they said. And actually, you don't have to agree with the feedback, but it's still interesting to get the feedback. You might go, oh, I can see what they're saying, but I still think I like the way I did it, and that's okay. You don't have to adjust to what every little thing that people say. We need to remember that the leaders or the coordinators that are judging the things that we do have to give you feedback. They have to say something constructive. That's in the remit. So it's
And what we have to
painting
think about
yourself as
there,
positives. There's
yeah,
always positives, and being compassionate and open to the fact that their feedback could help you get better.
yeah, and
It's a
that's the thing I was
gift.
going to say. Yeah, it is a gift. Just a lot of times we have these walls up that we think if somebody's giving us feedback, as you just said a minute ago, it's something to do with us, and they don't like us or they're being bitchy. And in
Yeah,
actual fact, people just want to help. People do
yeah,
want to make their life easier because there are nice people out there. So when we let our walls down and kind of go, okay, this person is actually being considerate and not mean,
yeah.
that's our own perception as well. Like, so I understand that people do actually want to help. Like,
Yeah, so it's that reframe when you get that feeling, and framing it before you even look at it. Like, talk to yourself. Go, I know there's going to be some constructive criticism, and I'm grateful for the feedback, and I'm going to take what I can. It's a gift. It's a gift for me to improve, and it's having that in mind before you even look at it. You know, um, and not trying to think, oh, it's because they don't like me or that's unfair, because that's a defense mechanism. It's because we don't want to. A part of us feels like we have to be perfect in our subconscious, and we don't want to accept that maybe there is something that we could have done better. And so what we do is we actually make ourselves feel far worse, because then we think the world's against us. That, oh, they just don't like me. Or they're being unfair to me, or I bet they wouldn't say that to so and so. you know and actually that makes you feel worse than just taking it as it is, which is just feedback to help you improve, that it's a gift. Yeah.